Alrighty, this is Ross. Yes, we are live. YouTube has definitely changed some things since the last time I've streamed for you guys. I am honestly super excited. We haven't done one of these in a long time for Fruit Talk at all. I've certainly been excited for this day. I hope you guys are too. But in today's episode, by the way, if anyone here has joined me in the live stream, please let me know in the comments, in the chat. Let me know if you guys can hear me all right, you guys can see me okay, how everything is doing. Say hello. But in this episode of Fruit Talk, it's going to be an exciting one, a passionate one, really about the journey of growing figs. And what a journey it's been, honestly. Really. I think I may actually have the wrong... Let me just change something around here because I think I have the wrong chat. I do. Pop out chat. We got one person saying hello. Okay, 1 second, guys. Technical difficulties, unfortunately. Let's see here. Properties. Change the URL. Okay. That work? All right, perfect. Yeah, we got it. Alrighty. What's going on, Shadow? I don't know who you are, but hello. So yeah, let's get back to what we were doing here, guys. We're going to essentially be talking about the wondrous journey so far of growing figs. And I don't want to just talk about, you know, the good things, but also the bad things, right? It's been a journey for sure that's been up and down. There's been a lot more good, obviously, than there has been bad. I've certainly not regretted anything. I can't believe that I am where I am. I mean, it's been about now, I think 7 years, about this time, 7 years ago, that I started on this journey. So it feels like so long ago as well, you know. I never expected to be in this position. I never expected to be doing this as long as I have. To be definitely into this as much as I have. It's been incredible. So as I said, you know, whether it's on my blog or whether it's on, you know, my social media, but we're going to talk about really, it's going to be, this video is going to be all about inspiration, guys. I think that's really the main goal. So hopefully a lot of you guys might be new to growing figs or are considering it. I know probably a lot of you aren't, and maybe you guys have been growing figs for a couple years now. But I love to inspire people to do things, but particularly things that I am very passionate about. And today, I got the fig bug, guys. I got it specifically today. I mean, it comes in waves. Maybe you guys have it all the time right now. But I was in my greenhouse, and I was kind of just looking at things and talking to one of my friends and just looking at my fig cuttings as well, by the way. These are empty, obviously, here in the greenhouse, but, you know, in the basement, in the grow closet, you should see the fig cuttings. I mean, it's like, it's been a while, actually, since I put a video out on the status and how well they're doing at this point. Even though we had a video recently, it's actually been probably maybe even a month since you guys have actually seen what they look like. But it's been really, it just kind of grabs your attention. I don't know what it is about fig cuttings. I don't know what it is about just seeing green growth. I don't know. It just makes me excited, you know? So I was like, oh my God. And also they're doing so well, you know, this year. I honestly think I got somewhere around 80% success rate so far, which I've been saying in the past. You're probably going to average out, if you're really good at this, you're probably going to average out somewhere around 70%. And I think in prior years, I've done about 75. This year, I'm looking at 80. And I actually think that if I'm really choosy with the cuttings I take and actually root, and I only choose the best of the best. Really, in specific terms, cuttings from more mature trees. I think if you get cuttings from younger trees that are in pots, for whatever reason, I think they just have more of a tendency to go bad on you. And it's always weird like that because they're young and they're brand new. So you want to propagate more of that particular variety, and then of course it doesn't end up working out because I think they're new. It's a relatively young tree, but as the tree gets older, and I think specifically more when they're in the ground, I in a sense, I just believe that I could probably get closer to 90% with my success rate. Someone on the channel had mentioned to me, "Hey Ross, you ever see how Bode is growing his figs or propagating his figs?" So Bode in France is one of the, he's definitely one of the most renowned fig growers in the world, particularly in France. And this is kind of how he does it. He does it in these cells, and then he puts them in, I guess, these little biodegradable root pouches, very small, fills them up with a little bit of soil, and then they actually grow through the bags, and then he takes these little bags, these little cells, and then puts them into larger pots. I think it's a pretty good way to do it. Obviously, it's a little bit more work, but I think in this sense, it's almost a bit more controlled. What's cool about this, what he's doing, first off, he's got like the perfect setup. He's also doing this in the spring. He takes his cuttings in the spring, I've noticed, which is definitely the best time to do it. Do your rooting in the spring, but he also does it underneath the greenhouse. So everything's very controlled. It's a little bit shady underneath the plastic in the greenhouse. And of course, it's natural light, even better. And then of course, it's very fresh because he just does it right there in the spring. Takes the cuttings in the spring, puts them in the cells in the spring. So by the end of the year, I'm sure he's got plenty of trees. I mean, he's got thousands of trees that he ends up rooting. It's it's something, I guess, for the future. There's obviously more photos of it that I saw on French Fig Farm, by the way, which is where these photos come from. The guy at French Fig Farm, I forget his name, Rich, went to Bode to see him in France, and this is just what he does. And you can see they're rooting right through the fabric. These are kind of like root pouches, but it doesn't even look like they have a bottom to them, which is quite interesting. So I don't even know how to get these things, where you'd find them. I looked. This is, I guess, one option in the future, but another cool thing is that it's not even really a long cutting. It's maybe 3 to 4 inches in length, which is, what some people would argue is not enough growth. It's not enough energy for these cuttings to have to eventually grow. Some people have all kinds of weird theories on this stuff, but look at that. They're all literally like 3 to 4 inches, and look how much green there is. I mean, it's crazy. He's even got the row cover over top of the figs for even more shade. And I think in this controlled environment in the spring and having them outdoors like this in natural sunlight, it just makes it so much easier. However, getting pretty good at doing it myself indoors, I must say. And then, of course, this is my little attempt to sort of do what he's doing. And who knows, maybe I'll try them in cells. Maybe I can find something like that. I'm also quite reluctant to start cuttings in the greenhouse just simply because of the space heater. And I know that space heater makes the environment very, very dry, and the humidity fluctuates extremely in that greenhouse just because the heater makes things dry, and then I come in there and water, and then the humidity rises to a crazy amount. So that fluctuation in humidity is really not good for young trees. They're very fragile in that state. So I guess it's worth a try. Maybe I'll do a small section of trees like that, but I'm more tempted to take the trees that are doing well in the basement in the grow closet bring them out in the greenhouse because they're already more established, and then again start them in the closet the same way I've been doing and get my 80% success and just make sure that's sort of like a guarantee. But this was, again, extremely encouraging and exciting to see. All the cuttings, the potential for more cuttings. I mean, I even have some flats here for microgreens, and you know, the greenhouse is looking crazy. There's even some cells here for seedlings. Here's the 128 cell trays I have. So I think it's like 132 fig cuttings that I'll be starting probably in the next couple months, which at least I hope. I'm not even sure I have enough material to do something like that, but I may even just cut back trees that I have very significantly just to get myself more material. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, let's kind of, before we get too sidetracked here, I guess, let's talk more about the journey of growing figs. And I want to thank everybody here for joining me. We got Rose, hello. Musty Fan, what's going on? The Porch Orchard, how's it going? Vivian, hello, nice to see you. I hope I saw your reply about the double bags, the double fabric pots, and I think as long as it's just warm, I don't necessarily recommend the double fabric. I'm not sure why you're doing it like that, but you definitely want the soil warmer. So whatever you can do, and make sure hopefully the fabric is black, so that in the daytime it warms up. The sides of the pot will warm up a bit more. We've got Chad, what's going on? Christopher Rizzo, what's going on, buddy? It's nice to see familiar faces. So, yeah, I mean, where do we even start with Journey of Growing Figs? So I guess we could talk a little bit about my journey, how I got into this and started. I mean, I've told this story a few times, definitely a few times, maybe more than a few times, but how did I get into figs? Well, there's a couple reasons, but one of them really is because I've always liked dried figs. My grandfather, who's Calabrian, has told me and sort of exposed me to dried figs, and they're always so hard to find, and they're always so expensive. Actually, I have some right above me, and these, unfortunately, you get at Costco. They're actually pretty decent depending on the time of the year you get them. I think the longer you wait, if you go longer into the wintertime, they degrade in quality, I find. But overall, they're not bad. It's just that I think some of them are a bit too wet in this bag. And instead, if you can get one like this, that's a bit harder, and you can open them up. And that's the other problem, is that sometimes, because it is a dried product, you know, there isn't always the best quality. And of course they're sun dried, so you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes I've seen all kinds of crazy things in here. Definitely you can see mold, and that's why I always check them. But also I've seen what seems like larvae of maybe even SWD, or maybe some larvae of some other insect. So not pleasant. Definitely don't eat those. I probably throw out, unfortunately, this brand here, I probably throw out maybe a fifth of the bag, which is unfortunate, but it's extremely cheap at Costco. I think this only cost me $10. I was so shocked for 2.5 pounds. That's like mind-blowingly cheap. But there is for sure, by the way, another brand I like to get. I don't think I have them up here, but they're called Jenny. Maybe I can find some here. Jenny figs. The Jenny Kalamata figs. That's it. This is it right here. This guy. And I get these at a local grocery store. Actually not that expensive, but they're more expensive than these. Definitely don't have the sweetness of these, but they're a more consistent product, if you ask me. Anyway, Point is that my grandfather loves these damn things. I love these damn things. You know, my grandfather always had a fig tree. He had one in Italy, his family, and then his father, when they came here from Italy, brought their tree with them, and it died. And the story is quite crazy, but I think my grandfather had it, and then he gave it to his best friend Vince, and then Vince killed it, and then Vince had to replace it, and long story short, Vince is dead, the tree's dead, everything's dead. It's not fun, it's not great, but it is what it is. My grandfather did have a tree, at least, when he lived in Jersey, and actually he lived in Tacony, if anyone is in that area. But he used to have a black mission tree, actually, right up against a shed, he told me. And there was a pool he had, and every year, the pool, I think he would use diatomaceous earth for, I don't remember what purpose, some kind of cleaning or something. But he would use diatomaceous earth, and plus the water from the pool, he would water the tree with that. He would kind of just, I think he would let the pool, all the water out of the pool, and he swore that the diatomaceous earth was, and all that water would make the fig tree just go nuts, which, I mean, now we know is pretty darn accurate, because the silica in the diatomaceous earth is quite incredible for a lot of plants. So he knew what he was doing, and he obviously had that tree for a very long time. My dad, however, doesn't like figs all that much. At least he used to not like figs all that much. He loves them now, don't get me wrong, and he's probably my number one fan. When I harvest these damn things, he's the first one to get some and ask for them. But back when he was a kid, he just has a very weird bee phobia. He's afraid of bees, and the bees obviously love figs, so he unfortunately just never wanted a fig tree. So one day, my grandfather, by the way, came over the house, and the current house actually I'm in right now, when I was, I don't know, sometime in high school, I was pretty darn young, maybe 14 or 15 years old. And my grandfather's a crazy kid. You know, he's a crazy man, in the best sense. But he does these wild things, I guess, that normal people would look at and think, "What are you doing?" You know, like he'll eat very, very hot peppers. Being from Calabria, he's just a goofy guy, let's say. Everyone's got their quirks, right? I love him to death, obviously, but one day he came over the house and he had these long branches with him, 4-foot long branches, and I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing with these branches? He's coming in the house with them, and I'm like, you're not supposed to do that, Grandpa. You're not supposed to bring the outdoor inside, right? That's how I was raised, is never to bring the outside stuff inside, because, you know, obviously you don't want to make your house dirty, right? So he's got the branches, goes out back. He's looking around in the backyard, and I'm following him, thinking to myself, what is he doing? And he eventually picks out a spot in the backyard, a couple spots, and puts the stick right in the ground. And I'm thinking to myself, again, what are you doing? So eventually he told me, and he said, these sticks will turn into figs. And of course, it's hard to believe at first, right? I mean, especially if you don't know anything about propagating, you don't know anything about plants. I mean, to this day, I tell people about grafting, how that works. I tell people about rooting anything. It just blows their mind. It blew my mind. So he kind of just planted the seed, in a sense, of not only do I like figs, but also you can grow them, and you can grow them here. So that was really the first thing that I got into, guys, in terms of growing food. Now, I was growing houseplants for about 2 years prior to growing figs, and I loved that. And specifically, I got into that because of a flood in our basement where I work, and it was moldy, so I needed to get rid of that smell. And just doing a little research, houseplants can purify the air, and eventually, actually, the smell has pretty much gone away. So it's from there, I guess I just went into figs, and then I know a lot of you guys probably have heard the rest of this story. At least you've seen the videos, in that learned you could grow figs, and then I learned about the fig communities, the fig forum. Actually, it was Figs for Fun back in the day, where there's all kinds of people growing figs. In fact, you can go back to the Figs for Fun archive, and you can look at all of the posts that were on our figs, because it was such a really an important community in the history of growing figs online as a hobby. Before, it was just, oh, you know, a guy down the street, he's got a tree, let me get some sticks. You know what I mean? So certainly this sort of opened up the door, I think, for a lot of people. And really, John Verdict in California was the one to create this thing before he eventually decided not to maintain it any longer. And, you know, it was getting kind of out of control. So there was some good reason, but somebody, fortunately, was very insightful to create an archive for the forum. So now this still exists, but in a different sense. You can't post, but you can always go back and look at what existed on this community. And, you know, there is some information, believe it or not, to this day that I go back and look at to see what's relevant and what's important to look at for research purposes. I'll tell you what, it's crazy going back and realizing how little people knew back years ago about figs. You know, obviously there was a different sense at that time, but the knowledge base, I think, it's been really quite a good evolution in terms of the average fig grower compared to where they were back when the old timers, is what people like to call them, were growing figs. And maybe somebody could debate that, but I think there's a huge amount of more common knowledge than there was back then, that's for sure. So, you know, in a sense, actually, before Figs for Fun started to die, is that another forum started to rise, which was called Our Figs. And this was created partly because of disagreements with the person running the forum, John Verdict, and he then decided to create his own with other people. And I eventually joined and spent a lot of time on this community. Made a lot of posts, made a lot of friends. That's really where, not necessarily on Figs for Fun, where I made the majority of my friends, but actually on Our Figs. And Figs for Fun, I actually have quite a few people that there is still a lot of people who maybe are not active on this forum anymore, and maybe they never transferred over to Our Figs, but they're still growing figs, and they're still accessible. People can still chat with them and really have discussions with them, and still continue on that hobby. I know there's people that still do this even when they first started way back on Figs for Fun. So the hobby continues for a lot of people. So that's kind of where my journey began, was coming on to Figs for Fun and realizing, after not knowing what I was doing, realizing that other people on the forum, on the community, were growing all this other stuff, and they also lived near me. And I thought, being as ignorant as I was, I had no idea that you could grow anything here. I didn't even realize, other than my grandfather telling me, that you could grow figs here. And even I have an apple orchard literally 2 minutes down the road. Never even occurred to me that I could grow half the stuff that I'm growing here currently. So then, of course, I got bit by the bug, right? Started growing every little thing you could, and then from there, it just exploded. And tasting every single different thing, I've realized, wow, I've been sort of robbed. I've been what's the word? I feel cheated, because our food is just not good. And maybe it is in other countries and other places, but here in the United States, for anyone that is not familiar, we just are sort of deprived of good food. And it's a shame. And a lot of it has to do with food security. So there's obviously a reason for it. But in my opinion, growing your own food, it's just another level. You just can't beat it. Not only, is it a good idea to get food from someone like a farmer at a farmer's market, but really being able to grow your own food is even better because, first off, it's as fresh as possible, but also you have the choice of the genetics that you can choose. So the genetics are just insanely valuable, and there's such a huge genetic diversity within anything, fruits, vegetables, whatever. Figs specifically, which was another driving force, kind of leads me right into the next part of this journey, is that there's a huge genetic diversity within growing figs, that each fig is extremely, extremely different from the other. And yeah, I mean, maybe not extremely, extremely. I mean, I think maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but a fig is a fig, but certainly the flavors can be quite different. And I've really well illustrated this on my spreadsheet. For anyone interested, it's down in the description. So the flavors are not only quite diverse, but also the different characteristics of the figs as well. Some are much more hardy. Some are definitely earlier, ripen at different times, have different harvest periods, have different hang times, have different rain resistances, split resistances to all kinds of things you can think of. Some get rust more than others. I mean, some have nematode resistance. It's kind of crazy once you really go deep into this and you trial, let's say more than 10 varieties. You really get some exposure on the major differences of these varieties. I guess for me, though, the biggest driving factor was the differences in the flavor, the differences in the texture, because for me, I'm all about the flavor, right? All about the eating experience, having that foodie experience. That's why we do this. I think a lot of us do this, at least on my channel, my viewers, is that we focus a lot on having that awesome experience, right? I've talked a lot about this over the years, especially on Fruit Talk. So why do you buy a nice bottle of wine that's really expensive? Well, you do it for the experience. You don't do it probably because it's worth $300. You do it to have that really awesome experience. Because, a bottle of wine, is it really going to be worth that much money? Each sip is worth, when you start getting to crazy amounts of money, each sip could be like $2 or something, or $50 a glass, or whatever it is. It just kind of gets, it's insane, right? But at the end of the day, a lot of people still do this, and I think the reason why they do it is for the experience. So, of all the things I've kind of been saying maybe recently, because in my fig journey, at least now, it's sort of coming to, well, I'm on the downtrend of the journey, right? There's all this excitement that builds up. You get to a pinnacle, and then now I've started to come down. I'm on the descent. Maybe not at the top of the mountain. I'm not towards the bottom of the mountain, but I'm somewhere, at the top, but on the way down. And at least, for me, I've been sort of saying recently that I'm actually downsizing. I'm no longer trying to have hundreds and hundreds of varieties, although I probably will forever have hundreds of varieties, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, to be honest with you, because, I think there's a good argument for all of this, even though I've said that what I would like to do is get down to 5, maybe 10 varieties. And I think there will be a time, let's say, for sure. Okay, there's a difference, I think, because my future is divided into 2 categories, and maybe you guys are in a similar way. I have some varieties of figs that maybe will be set aside for commercial purposes, and maybe the commercial varieties I grow is maybe only 5. Maybe it comes to the point where I make a hard decision and say, out of all the varieties that exist, I've only really found maybe 2, and that's actually true at this point. I've only really found 2 that are a significant cut above any other variety of the thousands of varieties that exist for this particular climate. Now, obviously things are going to change, right? So maybe those 2 won't always be the 2, and maybe I'll, start growing figs commercially under plastic in a more serious sense, and maybe because they're under plastic, I don't have to worry about having a fig like Rucciolo de Elba or Verdino del Nord that has extreme rain resistance and great drying capabilities. So you never know, but I think in the future it's not going to be like this. I'm probably not going to have, in that sense, so many varieties. But the other side of me is, if I get enough land, I get enough time, it seems worth it to me that I will eventually have an area dedicated for play, dedicated for trialing, as I do right now. Maybe even an area for preserving particular varieties. So certainly it's not like this is, so cut and dry or so white and black. But when I do think about these things, I do think about them as white and black or cut and dry terms. I don't like to get too attached to a particular idea, right? Try to be open-minded to things. I don't get too attached to stories of figs or the legacy or some personal attachment and consider them my child. You know what I mean? And that's totally fine. That's up to you guys. But if you're going to come at this from a point of view of like, you're trying to figure out what are the best varieties of figs for your climate, you can't have that attachment. It's in the way of the truth, the answer, at least for you. But having said that, I think there's a lot of advantages and benefits, obviously, to growing all these different varieties. So let's kind of talk about some of that. I also want to mention, before I forget, all the advantages essentially of being a part of one of these communities. So we'll get to that in a minute. However, some of the advantages that I think are really obvious, at least for me, is the genetic diversity. So having something that is going to be maybe a guarantee that will ripen every year consistently at a consistent time is definitely something that's very important. Maybe that you want that awesome experience. So what do? You go out of your way and you try to find the tastiest of the tastiest figs, right? So you're going after these varieties like Black Madeira and the Col de Dames and Smith and some of these that people really rave about. Maybe there's some that unfortunately is hyped up and there's not like a whole lot of attention about them. Or there is a lot of attention about them, but there isn't a whole lot of experience growing them. It's mostly speculative, but maybe that is something you could go for and try and maybe be one of the first people to experience that before everybody else. Come to your own conclusion maybe before everybody else. You know, I think a lot of people obviously enjoy that aspect of this. So, you know, I think what are some other obvious benefits here? Well, there's beauty, the beauty of it, right? I mean, also, how many people can even say that they have this many varieties of anything? Someone's got to do it. You know, it's pretty noble. So I think, in a sense, you know, really, I was listening to Harvey actually recently talk about his favorite varieties that he's in such a dilemma over because it's so hard for him to choose, and he makes a lot of good points in that video. You know, I think a lot of more experienced fig growers would probably agree, and it's just something that, unfortunately, it is a very difficult decision because there is so many benefits to this. I think really it drives the point home for me is when you see something, you know, such a huge genetic diversity, let's say, on your plate, and you have all these different fruits that taste, you know, quite differently, have different textures that really blow you away. You know, even you have something like this where there's a multitude of different fruits. It really is something special. I mean, you're living, in a sense, in paradise at that point. How many people can say they're living like this? You know, there's some billionaires, you could make an argument, that don't eat as well as this. I think there's a photo here I'm looking for that really drives this point home, because at certain times of the year, it really does. My orchard reaches a pretty amazing point of diversity. And here was one day of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe 13-ish varieties on one day. And then the next day was this. And this was probably the height of my season, 2019, when I had a really great fruit quality, and some of them were drying up on the tree. You could see the cork tints here on Sucrete. The beauty of Hativ de Argentile. It's such a beautiful piece of fruit. Nerucciolo de Elba is actually starting to dry up on the tree. And then, of course, the diversity of flavor, because the pulp color determines the flavor. Actually, believe it or not, that wasn't even Hativ de Argentile. This is LSU Tiger, I believe. I may even have the it written down. No, I don't. I have a photo somewhere, but I'm almost certain, yeah, this is probably LSU Tiger. And of course, you know, you get different complexities to this in the terms of the dried figs, how different those can be, even if they can just shrivel and maybe they turn into like a fig candy. Obviously, the different flavors between the pulp colors and all the things we've mentioned in the spreadsheet. It's just, it really does make all of this more worth it. I'll tell you that. And when you see, you know, something like this really obviously makes you go a little crazy. Your eyes light up. And then, of course, there's friends, right? So this is my friend Chris and Peter Kendary. We're here at the Staten Island Fig Festival. This was 2019. And this kind of leads us really well into the benefits, I guess, of the community. So on these communities, it's pretty obvious to me that you can meet some really great people. So I'm just so hot here, guys. Excuse me. But in these communities, even our figs, even though I've just left, and I've talked about why I left, there is some benefits. And I think, as I've sort of mentioned in that other video, is that your progression is you join the communities, you make a lot of friends, you have a great time, the excitement's high. You maybe get a lot of different material. And then years go by, you continue on that path, you keep learning more, and eventually you get to a point where you've learned almost everything there is to learn on the communities, or you're not making too many new friends. Things are getting a bit overwhelming. Maybe you've changed different aspects of your life. Maybe you have other things to do. So you may end up deciding to leave at some point, but the benefits of me joining this community was immense. And I've said that so many times. And a lot of you guys, I still recommend at this point joining a community like this, so that you can learn with other people, bounce ideas off of other people. I mean, it's so much easier to learn when you have other ideas, other people, other point of views that can come in and influence you. It's kind of like if you're in class at school and there's only one person in the class and it's you. You're not going to learn nearly as much, right? You're not going to enjoy it nearly as much. I think there's a lot of people, obviously, that make this whole thing a lot better, right? The generosity, the friendships, the awesome, what is the word I'm looking for? The awesome gatherings that you guys can be a part of, especially if you live in the Northeast. Multiple gatherings throughout the year. And those are always fun, seeing your friends, meeting up for pizza beforehand, or going to your buddy's place to help him create a garden. I just did that in the spring of last year, of someone I met years ago on Figs for Fun. And he just got a place, bought his house, had a couple kids, and he wanted a garden. So what did we do? Came over to his house and helped him create a garden. So I think at least some of these relationships I've been a part of, they come and go, but I think a good amount of them will last for a very long time, maybe if not forever. And it's always nice to be able to share things with other people. I think that's one of the keys to life is really being able to share what's good. If there's something good that you ate, or there's something that's good that's going on in your life, why keep that bottled inside? I think maybe people have different points of view on that, which would be justifiable. But I think certainly life is better with other people, right? We're social creatures. It's better to share. So, yeah. I think that really makes the case here for these communities. There was something I wanted to mention to you guys. So we talked about, so going back to some of the things we wanted to really cover in this episode, one of the things I really wanted to mention was, how do you get into all this? I sort of made a good argument. I think I made a good argument. I probably can make a better argument. Maybe if I did this over, maybe if I just hit the stop streaming button and then redid this whole thing, and 45 minutes later, it probably would come out better. But I think certainly that one of the things that we should talk about is how to get into all this. There's a lot of new people. Even my friend who, first off, I just mentioned, who we created the garden for, he just got some land. He's been into this for a long time. He loves food. But he just got land, and finally he's able to grow what he wants and do what he wants. And he's always loved figs. So knowing me, of course, I came over his place and helped him create a garden. But I also planted roughly, I don't know, about 5 fig trees at his place. We gave him a lot of fig cuttings this year. So certainly if you got friends, that's a great way to start, right? I mean, maybe not everyone's going to give you 5 fig trees, but certainly you can get lucky. And I know there's a lot of people in this community, in these communities, that are very generous people and will help you if you ask and if you're nice and courteous. No one's going to go out of their way, for the most part, to help you if they don't know who you are. So you have to make friends. You have to be the first one to initiate that conversation and offer something back. You know, don't always be about me. You know, yeah, you want someone to help you. Maybe you want someone to, you know, like I said, this is. I mean, another way to say it is it's a two-way street, right? So, you know, if someone I'm going to mentor, let's say, because I have quite a few friends, including myself, we mentor people. I mean, I mentor a lot of people, if you could think about in terms of just watching this video. But a couple of my friends, even I know Peter Kandari is one of those people who takes people aside and mentors them, and teaches them how to grow figs and make sure that they know what they're doing and they got all the tools and they have everything they need. In fact, I had a mentor. Raphael was someone who sort of helped me out in my beginning of growing figs. So everyone needs someone like that. Everyone needs a friend or someone they can confide in to kind of get through this in an easier fashion. Otherwise, maybe you're going to spend a whole bunch of money, you know, so, or bang your head against the wall, and you don't necessarily need to do that, right? Another good way to start, I would argue, is first off, you can either make friends. If you make friends, you're going to almost get anything you want, I think. A lot of the very common varieties, you're going to find in abundance. I mean, even just being a part of the right community of people who are good and are in it for the right reasons, in the hobby for the right reasons, you will find cuttings from people who are, it's extremely cheap. You may find some for $1, $2, $4 a cutting, which is pretty darn affordable for some of these more common varieties. You can certainly get a good deal, and that way you can build a collection. Maybe that isn't very rare, but it doesn't have to be rare because it's going to be good. I mean, the common varieties are common for a reason. Varieties like Violet de Bordeaux, Ronde de Bordeaux, Hardy Chicago, it's just, you know, these are the varieties that are also, by the way, commonly found at nurseries, online nurseries. I wouldn't bother with local nurseries unless they have a guy there that really knows what they're doing in the realm of figs. Most people don't. And in fact, most nurseries don't. Even the online nurseries, sometimes they don't know what they've got. But you could certainly make an argument for a bunch of these online nurseries that they're a great place to start. And I would say Edible Landscaping is probably the best place. I've also talked a lot about Just Fruits and Exotics, and I still recommend these people. They have a good selection of figs as well, and they'll send them to you at larger sizes for a more expensive price, but it's a larger size tree, usually a 3-gallon size tree, and it's a pretty darn good deal. Like this one right here is a Celeste, but it's actually a blue Celeste. And this is a pretty darn good fig. This one will be very sweet. I imagine it's pretty darn good. I kind of want to grow it myself. Look at this. You can even get a 7-gallon, I think, depending on the time of the year. But they sell, by the way, Just Fruits and Exotics, probably the best selection out of any of the online, non-serious fig hobbyist nurseries. So This is approaching quite serious, but it's not necessarily at that level, I would say. But there is a guy behind Just Fruits and Exotics that is quite serious about growing fruit and all these different varieties. They have things like Colonel Littman's Black Cross, obviously Hardy Chicago, the standard Green Eye Shia, Hunt, which I feel is quite underrated. I'm actually myself growing it now this year. I got myself cuttings because I thought this fig's been around forever. I heard someone finally, I've been asking for years, finally, there was a really good review on it, and actually 2 of my friends now really love it. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if 2 of my good friends, people who I respect their opinions on, they love it, it must be good. Let's try it. And that's what I've decided to do, is we're growing Hunt. And so they have the standards, but they're good. They're good figs. I mean, it's not like this is a total waste of time. I mean, just because it doesn't have a big name. I mean, they even have Smith, for goodness sakes, you know. Here's one actually that is the 3-gallon size. I've actually purchased a few Smiths from Just Fruits and Exotics. And it really helped me, by the way, when I bought the trees, it really helped me expand my collection of Smith trees, let's say. I really wanted somewhere around 10 Smith trees, so I bought 3 of them and propagated from those 3, and I've been ever since loaded with Smith. I can't get enough, you know. So this is one way to do it. Edible Landscaping, I find, has much cheaper prices because you can get them at a smaller size pot, which will also be cheaper to ship. And their varieties are top notch as well. These are really, really the standards, like Hardy Chicago's Celeste, Brown Turkey, which is really a southern brown turkey, we call it. LSU Purple, another great fig that's stupidly underrated. Violette de Bordeaux, it's a standard, a keeper. Texas BA1, I mean, that basically is Smith. Green Eye Shia and Panache, and this Long Island fig, believe it or not, kind of reminds me of Yellow Longneck. And here's actually a 3-inch pot of it. O'Rourke, which is a different strain of Celeste. Marseille is a great fig. It says here, Hank Matthews, a fig enthusiast from Long Island, sent us starts of the only fig bush he found alive above ground after a very cold winter on Long Island in the 90s. Our plant has survived over the years and given medium-sized yellow fig that's similar to Marseille. Maybe it is similar to Marseille. Perhaps a drier, sweeter taste and later ripening. Probably from Italy. I mean, the fruits... Man, it's so hard to tell from this one photo. You know what I mean? It actually does sort of look like Marseille. Doesn't look like Yellow Longneck. Interesting. Kind of wonder what that fig is, but you know, when you see a fig like this, guys, by the way, that's got a shape that's more like a golf ball, or it's round, it's flat, it's not going to do well in a humid climate, or as well in a humid climate. What you really want is something with a long stem, a long neck, and a slender body in these humid places like where I'm growing figs. They'll be a lot more split resistant like that, and that's why something like O'Rourke here or Celeste just does so well with the rain. We're getting off topic, but you could see the long stem, the long neck, and then a more slender body to it. This is actually where I've gotten my Celeste from, is Edible Landscaping. So yeah, a great place to start, no doubt. I don't know why people don't look here first, personally. get an established collection, and I've said this in the past in other videos. What you're trying to do when you first start out is get yourself a number of the keepers, the standard varieties that are quite common, affordably. Create many copies of those trees by putting them in the ground. Put them in the ground. They're going to grow and grow and grow. Take as many cuttings as you can, and then that's how you expand your collection. Have multiple copies of those trees. They're the standards. They're the mainstay of any fig collection. So having multiple copies is really going to make you have a slightly different approach in the future. You're not going to be as affected by the fig bug if you have these standard varieties giving you food security in a sense. When maybe you don't get a whole lot of fruit your first couple years, you want to speed that process up and you just get a lot of trees. I've done that myself, not just with figs, but with other fruits. I have, I don't know, close to 10 persimmon trees because all my persimmons mostly drop every year. And I just want to speed this process up. One day I'm going to look outside and I'm going to have more persimmons than I can ever know what to do with, you know? So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you could, in a sense, if I started out with, let's say, the right persimmon, I would certainly have persimmons and probably wouldn't have needed to plant as many persimmon trees as I did. But, you know, it's not like it's a loss, but it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So that's one way to do it, I think. And it really does depend on where you guys live and all that good stuff. But I would highly recommend planting them in the ground no matter where you live. Getting them through the wintertime, it's going to be a lot easier. The reward's going to be higher. Even a really cold zone like zone 5, I probably would recommend planting them in the ground and seeing some of the techniques, using some of the techniques I've mentioned over the years now to get your tree through the wintertime, but also to get it off into a head start using low tunnels and things like that. And that kind of brings us, I guess, to the techniques, right? Choose the right techniques. I think that's really key. Don't get too bogged down on the many different ways to do one thing. There's always going to be so many ways to do the same exact thing. Find what works for you and stick to that. Now, if you want to do something that's a bit more optimal, perhaps, then you got to try something new, and you got to try maybe it in the sense that somebody else is recommending. So maybe there is an improvement to the low tunnel thing that I'm mentioning, but certainly if you want to have good success, that's, in my opinion, one of the best ways to do it. Really, for a lot of us, is to grow figs under plastic. Also, in the rooting sense, learn how to root, learn how to propagate these figs, learn all the different techniques, air layering, do some trading, do some buying, do a little bit of selling, get all the different point of views, do some grafting, experiment a little bit with rootstocks and different scion for those different rootstocks, and make this whole journey whatever it is that you want for yourself of trying all these different varieties. I know I recommend figs over the years and I say these are my best. I also say sometimes don't even waste your time with blank fig, but the journey is whatever it is you make of it, right? So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to save some time and you have similar goals to myself, maybe it is probably a good idea to listen to what I say. But, I don't think there is any one way to do this whole journey either. Even though I've been mentioning all these good ideas and things like that. Or things that I would do, let's say. So that's kind of mostly it, I think, is in terms of how I would do this myself. And I've also done other videos on this topic if you're interested. Maybe it's a little bit more detail if anyone's interested in that. I think the video is titled something like how to start a fig collection. There it is. And this is a 19-minute video, and then here's one we did a year ago. We talk about this all the time. I mean, look how many fig videos I have at this point. It's just crazy. And if I go to my channel, I mean, it's like looking back on this whole journey, it's just crazy. Like, to even look and see, I would also recommend documenting this whole thing, guys, because it's so cool to be able to go back and look at what the yard looked like, what everything looked like when I first started. I mean, here we could sort by the oldest videos I put out. What's some of these look at this, dude. Look at this. Here I am underneath my shade tree. And this is what the trees looked like so long ago, it feels like. We have some on the patio. Right, we're going too quick here. I want to just kind of admire this. You know, it's what I'm looking at here is my Smith. We did a graft. And this tree, by the way, just took off that year. It had such a great form, too. I should have just kept it like this, I feel like. The form was literally perfect. It couldn't have been any better. The following season, I probably would have had like 300 figs off of that tree. It split off. It had good branching and then good spacing of the branches. Look at that. What a nice tree. I'm telling you, next year I would have been set. And then somehow I did all that growth in 1 year, which is great. The only thing I would probably do at this point differently is spread the branches out a bit more, because they really need that light penetration. Smith, unfortunately, really struggles with that. And that's why there isn't a whole lot of fruit set on that tree. Look at this. By the way, these cuttings here didn't survive, and they didn't do that well. I mean, some of them did, obviously, but a lot of them didn't do well. Reason being was the soil. It was mostly peat moss and it was freaking what's that crap called? Pro Mix. And also the fact it was in the blazing sun all day. You need to have them in an area that is covered with plastic or shade cloth or something. Isn't it crazy just how different this all looks? I mean, it's just nuts. There's the air layers. I learned how to air layer. Took off so many air layers off of that Cadota tree. And then I grafted onto that Cadota, all those air layers I grafted onto, because I realized, I think even this year that I did this video, that Cadota was not a variety I should have in the Northeast. At least the strain of Cadota I had was completely demolished by a 4 or 5 day stretch of rain. Look at the yard. Isn't that just crazy? Can't believe how green the grass is too. Well, there was definitely parts of the grass that didn't look very good, but yeah, I mean, it's so cool. I think even just to go back, maybe not to this most recent one. Actually, here's some, no, not this one. You know what's crazy about some of these videos too? It's like, I can't believe how many views some of them have. Why some of these videos have so many views, I don't know. But maybe they just been around for a long time. I don't know. It's some of these videos are so much worse than they were more recent times. This one here was a great one. I loved this. This was the Staten Island Fig Festival. We got to meet a lot of friends that we've made over the years and hear their opinions on growing figs. Even though this is an old one, it's probably one of the best videos I did, I would argue. That one's a great one if you're interested in the journey of how I started out. I guess it really hasn't been all that long ago. You know, it says these videos were released 4 years ago. Holy crap. We just went fully in. I'll tell you what, right now, this was some of the best figs I ever ate. This was at the Long Island Fig Festival. And my friend Doug had brought us just the best figs you could think of. Like, I mean, they're Californian grown, caprified. This, I think, at that point of my journey had really changed my view on what was possible in terms of figs, because at that point I was mostly eating kind of, I mean, you could say crap compared to what I was eating from Doug. Like, Doug had really opened my mind to what a real fig should taste like. And yeah, that was I think from that point on I got really hooked and couldn't believe I wanted that so badly. So I personally have been ever since trying to achieve a similar quality to what Doug had exposed me to on that trip. So now I guess we're in the stage of the journey where we are, as I mentioned, we're on the top of the mountain, but we're on the other side. And we're on the way down. And we are now downsizing. Still experimenting. Still have a number of trees, as I've shown you guys with the experimental potted trees. I mean, this is a good maybe this video will show you exactly what's going on here. I mean, how many experimental trees I have. It's pretty large, and this number is growing, unfortunately. But this is all part of the fun, you know, of like learning which ones are good and which ones are bad, and figuring out why that was and what I did wrong, and making better techniques, using better techniques. It's all yeah, it's just really incredible. And I get overjoyed at this point. You know, I was looking at the varieties I rooted recently. I looked at the grow closet and I said, wow, that's awesome. That's how I got excited for this video, right? And it just still brings excitement to my face when there's these new varieties I can try, get to taste them, get to grow them, get to know them, figure out if they're good. Even if they're bad, it's not a loss. And see what the deal is. And every day we learn something new. That's the beauty of growing any fruit or vegetable. You learn something new all the time. There's always something to learn. So we're still doing this. You know, it's not like this is over, but I certainly, when I mentioned in the beginning of this video that we are downsizing to varieties that I really, really, really like, because they're just such a cut above the others that it doesn't make too much sense unless I was really attached. Maybe there was a good story, maybe there was an emotional thing behind it, and for that reason I would keep them. Maybe there is the preservation part of it. I would say at some point in my life I will be preserving varieties. I mean, I sort of already am, right? I mean, they're not going to disappear, all of them, tomorrow, but certainly some hard decisions at some point have to be made, and it is what it is. So that's sort of my rationale behind it. Is, yeah, there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of extra work that comes with it, and if I could get them all on the ground, I would. If I had land, which, by the way, I really do hope this time next year I'll be looking for land, maybe even have bought a place. And it's awesome to finally be able to say that. To be in this position of my life and to have done this mostly on my own, obviously with the help of my parents, but as a single person, to have come as far as I have, I think it's been I've been very proud the last 6 months of what I've been able to do and accomplish, and things are just coming together, and I'm happy, that I'm going to get some land, I'm going to do whatever I want with it, and I think there will always be a section of figs, that's for sure. Probably way more than there should be. Man, what else? I mean, I think that's pretty much why we're downsizing. I mean, it's really revolving around the work involved and the benefit, the cost benefit ratio of everything in life, right? If I could keep them all, I would. Maybe someday I will go out of my way at some point, maybe not to acquire what is already existing, but I will go out of my way in the future to find new varieties, local varieties, and preserve them, at least give them a shot, trial them, figure out what the deal is. A lot of the varieties in the Northeast, there's a good amount of them, I believe, that are probably quite exceptional and maybe even unique. So there's a lot of genetics here within the Northeast that we just have not found and have not really exposed ourselves to. It does unfortunately hurt me to say every time somebody asks me, Ross, will you grow this fig? It's really special to me and my family. Can you grow it for me? Can you help me preserve it? And I have to say, most of the time, no. So it'll be really cool, I guess, in the future, just to see what the deal is with all these unknowns that you never know what's out there, and the genetics that do exist continue to impress me day after day. It really is. It's incredible. So also I want to make one announcement, and then we're going to get to the chat because I know you guys have been saying a lot of stuff. We will get to the chat and answer any questions we have, a little Q&A. One announcement I think I wanted to make, what the heck was it? I just thought of it and now I forgot. We're getting old, apparently, guys. All right, let's see here. What do we got in the chat? Holy crap, what are you people up to? Yeah, you know what, guys? Happy New Year. It's been a long time coming, this live stream, as I probably said in the beginning. Really happy to be doing this right now. It's been a long time since I've done one. YouTube changed the whole thing on me. I had to figure out how to do this again. It took me like a good 5-10 minutes to figure it out. And I really do appreciate all you guys out there watching. Well, not just right now, but at some point, who do watch the videos, who support the channel. I really do wish from the bottom of my heart that you guys are going to be happy in the future. Not just right now, but you guys are going to have a great year of 2021. I know a lot of us have been struggling. Maybe some of you guys, I heard that at least at the beginning of the pandemic, that a lot of you guys were very happy to have my channel and to watch my videos, just to have something to look forward to or keep yourselves occupied. I visited my grandmother the other day. I had a quarantine, of course, just to see her. And it's been a long time since I have actually even physically seen her. So, yeah, I just know that time is short, guys. You know, we don't live forever. Maybe a good portion of our lives is now gone, and there's nothing we can do about it, but make the best of it. You know, this is kind of, it's a new year, it's a new time, right? I'd also mention there's a couple things I think you guys should do for the new year in terms of your health, but maybe I'll save that for another video. I don't know. We've sort of talked a lot about it. I keep harping on it, but that's actually the announcement. I forgot what the announcement was. We have a giveaway that we're going to do for charity. And I also I do want to mention as well that we've had just an incredible season in terms of selling cuttings and selling plants. I personally feel proud of what I've been able to do, the support that you guys have been giving me. I know probably some of you want to support me in some way, and maybe you guys are not as inclined to support me in terms of monetary terms, like Patreon or something, but a lot of you guys really went over the top, supported me through buying cuttings, and I'm happy to do it because you guys are getting something in return. You know, it's more than just the videos. It's more than just a piece of merch or something. It's a gift in a sense for life. Not that it's a gift, but it's something you guys will have forever, I hope. And I hope everybody, their trees that you guys have are doing exceptionally well. Mine certainly are, and I've said that at the beginning of this, is that I'm looking at like an 80% success rate this year, and I actually talked about the very, very beginning. I think I can get to 90. Maybe even next year we can do that, but I just know that this year we had the best product I've ever had. Like the cuttings get better and better every year. The older the trees get, now that a lot of them are in the ground, I find the in-ground trees produce a better quality cutting. Our lignification was pretty darn good this year, even though I think there's really not a whole lot of evidence to support lignification and how well a cutting is going to root. There was a lot of delays, by the way, with the post office, and I thank a lot of you guys for putting up with that. That was a big blunder, and I've been struggling with that this whole year. I was going to sell a lot more trees to you guys throughout the summer, but in the spring I had a lot of trees that just took forever to get there, and they didn't arrive in great condition. So I said, all right, we got to wait, forget about it. We did the bare rooted trees. That was probably the best thing I ever did. Those bare rooted trees have worked out so well. I think so many people are going to be so happy with those come spring. And then, of course, the cuttings, just to see it, of course, from my own experience of rooting them, because I didn't just sell them all. I have been rooting them myself, and I know firsthand just how good they are. Not that they were horrible in other years, but it's certainly every year it seems like either I'm getting better or the cuttings are getting better. I don't know. But we're going to make some changes, of course, to that next year. I think what I'm going to do is we're probably going to sell only 3 cuttings per variety, and no more and no less. If I can't even provide 3, I'm not going to even sell it. I think a lot of you guys want a lot of wood, but I also think a lot of you guys don't want a lot of wood. Some of you guys would rather have 2 cuttings or 1. So the good compromise, I think, is 3. And we're going to also increase the size. I think people have a higher standard. When I started out in this fig journey, I was lucky and happy to get whatever I could get. And if someone sent me an ugly cutting or a cutting that only had a couple nodes on it, I said, whatever, I'm going to root it. I'm going to try my best. And I've rooted every weird looking cutting you can think of. And it's not a horrible thing that the expectations have risen, but for the future, we're going to try to make it more clear, I think, for people what it is exactly you're going to receive. I'm going to try to have photos. I think I'll probably not going to take photos of every single set, but I will bundle up the cuttings I have, take a photo of that so you know exactly what at least they should look like, maybe. And then also we're going to increase, I think, the length to a foot. So it'll be 3 cuttings, no less than a foot in length. And we're going to change also the packaging, I think, as well, to accommodate a larger cutting. And it should be, I think, better for everybody in a sense. Not that we really even had many complaints this year. I think a lot of people were very happy. And a lot of the people were return customers, which is really great. So back to this little announcement is that we are doing it's going to be a giveaway. I don't know how it's going to work just yet, but it will be a giveaway for charity. And we're going to probably do a couple more giveaways. I think we really need to be better. This is not what I want to do. What am I doing? Trying to find here really quickly the charity that I'm going to support. Here it is. So it's called the Institute for Functional Medicine, and this sort of ties into the recommendations I wanted to talk about in this video in terms of what you guys should do as a resolution for 2021. And it really revolves around your health and why I think this institute really knows what they're talking about. I mean, first off, there was a guy, just a quick story, a doctor named Dr. Mark Hyman that really changed my life, I personally think. I've been on this health journey for the last 5-6 years, something like that. Something was off, and I couldn't figure it out. And it really was a simple change of just not eating gluten, not eating dairy. I mean, to this day, I do eat some dairy now, but most of it is goat or sheep products. And having the information available from this guy changed my life because I wouldn't have known. I always thought gluten was a fad. I didn't think there was anything to it. There was any science behind it. That I didn't know anything about it, really. Completely ignorant with all these false assumptions about it. And he is the guy that people, I think, should be listening to in terms of their health. Just like I'm the guy I think a lot of people look to for figs. There's always that one guy out there who's the most passionate, who's got the answers that can give you at least the right tools to help you. And he earned that for me, obviously. It was a dramatic change in my health in 2 days. 2 days, big difference. 12 days, was extremely happier, healthier, clearer mind, less allergies. I mean, 10 different things I could name. By about a month, I lost 10 pounds of fat that just had been, over the years, accumulating. And I thought, oh, well, that's because I'm getting older, right? Nope. So through all this research of finding out what leaky gut is and figuring out that it was all kind of starting from my stomach and it was caused by the gluten that I was eating because probably of my sensitivity to it, I have to believe, of course, that was it. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but personally, This guy deserves all the support so that his institute can essentially promote more of this idea of functional medicine, of looking at the gut, of looking at the root cause of the problem rather than the diagnosis and putting a band-aid on the diagnosis, right? So let's say you have dry skin and your doctor might say, oh, you have dry skin. Well, I think you have eczema or something. Well, and then they're going to give you something for your eczema. Maybe it's a cream, maybe it's a moisturizer, whatever it is. The functional medicine doctor is going to look at your dry skin and say, well, why do you have dry skin? And then they're going to give you a reason why you have dry skin and try to fix the root cause of the dry skin, not the Band-Aid, even though moisturizer is a good thing. There's two different ways to look at it, and it's not like one is a cuckoo way of looking at it. It's just a different way, a different lens that I personally believe will put traditional medicine, in most people's case, in the dust. I actually think traditional medicine is not going anywhere. We need vaccines, we need surgery, we need whatever, right? But if you can prevent all these bad things from happening to begin with, like a heart attack, like a stroke, like Alzheimer's, through functional medicine, wouldn't you do it? So I think yeah, that's my little thing here. We're going to do a giveaway. I'm partnering up with David Burke. I don't know if you guys know who David Burke is, but he has some unknowns from California that he found, and he's got them pretty well documented on his website. We'll make an announcement video about the giveaway, how it's all going to work. I'm also donating some of my own material towards the giveaway, and of course, it'll all be for this Institute of Functional Medicine. Highly recommend you guys check out Dr. Mark Hyman. There's a couple things I also recommend that you guys do for your health. This is the most important things, I think, that make the biggest difference. Again, not a doctor, but I think across the board, at least from what I've heard from doctors, this can make the biggest difference on your health. In that, first, we need to worry about our circadian rhythm, our circadian clock. As soon as you get up in the morning, go outside, get some sunlight. The earlier you do it, the better. That's going to set your clock, your melatonin, so many hours later in the day. That's going to help regulate your sleep. Also, your sleep is extremely important. So a lot of you guys may not know it, but you might have sleep apnea. Probably should check that out. Maybe a sleep study. If you snore, if you sleep with your mouth open, you're probably not getting adequate sleep. Also, first thing in the morning, not only are you going to get up, you're going to go outside. You're going to go outside for 10, 15 minutes to get some sunlight without sunglasses on. But you're also going to eat, the first thing you eat in the morning is going to be very low in the glycemic index. This is going to normalize your blood sugar, your insulin throughout the day, help prevent diabetes. And then, of course, I guess my other recommendations are things like get adequate vitamin D and also take magnesium. A lot of us are deficient in magnesium. Realized I was deficient. I was pretty stressed. It also helps you sleep. It calms you down. And it also helps you absorb vitamin D, which I was deficient in for probably most of my life. I could be outside all day in the summer, get a blood test, still have low vitamin D. Wasn't until I took magnesium did I actually start metabolizing that vitamin D. And as we know, vitamin D is really good for this virus. So, yeah, probably a good tip. And I think I can make these recommendations because I'm not a doctor. Talk to your doctor, though, guys, as a matter of responsibility. But and then, of course, look into gluten and look into other food sensitivities you might have. You know, people might be sensitive to eggs. FODMAPs. Maybe you don't do better on meat, or maybe you do better on meat. Whatever it is. I think if you do all those things I mentioned, you're going to be a lot happier and a lot healthier. I guarantee you that. Okay, let's get on to the chat here, because we've just been on our soapbox for long enough, right, guys? Alrighty. So, hello, everybody. Oli, what's going on? Levi, what's going on? Chato said, where can I find those pots? I get this question so often, it's ridiculous. And I wish I could add them to my Amazon storefront, but they don't sell them on Amazon. The best way you could do it is you go on Greenhouse Megastore and you can just type in tree pots. And this is where they're at. Tree pots. And I get them at the 4x9 inch size, and I get them at $240 a case. And they're always at a discount here, and you should get free shipping. Now, I've never tried the larger size, but I don't think you necessarily need them unless you're doing heavy-duty seedlings like pawpaw or maybe rootstock that you're growing, and you might want a larger pot to then graft onto. And that could be definitely helpful. You might even want to try these smaller sizes. I think there's also a company called Stewie's that sells them, and they have I think a better selection of sizes of them. Vivian said, "Why do you think we have fig fever?" Well, I think a lot of people want that experience, and they want it now, and unfortunately it takes a long time. So then we go a little bit crazy and we end up buying more fig trees than we probably need. Lemmings Run said, anyone have experience grafting to a Capra fig rootstock? I do not, but I bet you, actually, I might. There may be some variety I've had at some point that I didn't want because it dropped all of its figs. It might be a Capra fig, who knows? But I know people who have grafted the Capra figs, and there's no, it's no difference. The graft will take, assuming it is a Ficus corica rootstock, you should have a good take rate. Maybe some varieties are not as compatible as others, but you will have a good take rate, and it's probably going to be quite vigorous as well. So usually Capra figs make good rootstock. Joe says hello from Mexico. What's going on, Joe? Mama Bear, what's going on? Happy New Year. Happy 2021. Woohoo. Happy New Year. Cody, hey Ross, I've been binge watching your videos. Love the content. I'm new to figs. I'm wondering approximately what temp to do fig trees die back down to their roots. I'm in zone 7B. Well, it depends on the variety, and it depends on a lot of your conditions. So if you have a lot of water throughout the summer, and it rained a lot, and your trees grew a lot, and by the fall they didn't lignify properly, your tree is going to be more susceptible to the cold. So if you have a drier location, no matter where you are in the country or in the world, your trees are going to be more hardy than in a wetter location, a more wet location. There is also speculation that potassium could really aid, and even silica could help aid in the hardiness of the tree, of the fig tree. So in zone 7B in Tennessee, you probably get decent amount of rain. Your tree probably isn't as lignified as maybe it should be. But 7B is pretty good. I would say if your tree is well lignified, there's no reason why most varieties can't get down to at least 5 degrees Fahrenheit, if not 10. I think 10 for the majority of fig trees is a really good temperature. And 7B, you're looking at you're looking at between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So you should be good with the majority of your trees. Assuming they're well lignified. If they're young, they're not going to lignify well either. So maybe the first couple years you struggle, but eventually it digs itself in and it doesn't suck up as much water like a cactus. They really are cactus in that sense. And they love to store water in their branches. But if you have a drier soil, you'll get better lignification. KJ said, "God bless you. Good bless you, dude. Thanks for tuning in." G, the spreadsheet's awesome. Thanks for sharing all of your experience. Yeah, I'm happy. That's the best part of this whole thing, right? I've said that in this talk, but sharing is like what makes this all worth it. If I can't share with somebody, it just kind of sucks, you know? Woohoo said, "Where do you get the fig chart?" I created it. Woohoo said, "You like Dalmatie? I'm trying that in Massachusetts this spring in a bucket. It is a good fig. I have a fig, though, called Gayette. It's a French fig that's quite similar to Dalmatie, but in my opinion, it's better for the moisture here. And the reason for that is it's not as big, similar to Dalmatie. You can see the shape. It's more of an oval. It's got a similar void. The leaf pattern's quite similar, but it's smaller, better rain resistance, more slender, and because it's more slender, it should not split as often, and therefore it should be quite better for the resistance to humidity, as it says here actually, from this particular grower. Let's see here. The J-Man, growing up in a country lifestyle, then moving to a big city and going back to the country lifestyle definitely makes you appreciate just one or two fig trees. Yeah, for sure. You're back in the country, huh? It's probably for the best. No offense to anybody in a city, but I don't know if I could ever live in a city. I need the land, right? I need to grow stuff. Puerto Rican Patriot, how's your Capra fig experiment going? It's going pretty darn good. I'm debating whether or not I should ask some friends for Capra figs, for Profici, I should say, with the wasp in it this season. I might do that in the spring, depending on how I'm feeling and what the tree is looking like it's doing, and I'll make a judgment call. It'd be nice to get that going for sure. Tarek, what's going on, man? Good to see you here, buddy. The Porch Orchard said, "I've experienced immense generosity on our figs." Yeah, I'm sure. I know a lot of people have. 7 kilograms said, "God bless you." God bless you as well. Alexander Chica. Oh, what's going on, Alex? Happy to have you here. Z, what's going on? The Porch Orchard. I'm guilty of making the early newbie mistake of paying too much for certain varieties. Might as well bring this out here for you guys, because I don't know if you can see what I'm reading. Especially before I knew about the abundance of cuttings. Yeah. Yeah, there is quite an abundance, and you know what's weird is that it seems like I would have thought that the demand would have gone down, but every year I think it's going to go down, and it doesn't. It somehow increases. It just keeps growing, and it's really quite something. It's really amazing. TJ said, nurseries even in San Diego don't really know what they're doing with figs. Yeah, it's true. Mo, what's going on? New to the fig row. Which type is sweet and doesn't grow large? Maybe tops around 10 feet. Depends on where you live, Mo. I don't know if I can really answer that question. The more water you have, the more it's going to grow. The more vigorous the variety, the more it's going to grow. But in general, in the right conditions, almost any fig is going to get to 10 feet. I wouldn't be afraid to prune things, you know. You can very easily cut figs back quite significantly and still get a large crop and a manageable sized tree every year. There's a guy in California, and there's a lot of people who do this, but California is a pretty good example where he pollards his tree basically every year, and if the branches are well spaced when the new growth begins in the spring, and you separate them well and you stake them maybe away from each other, have good light penetration into the tree, there's no reason why you can't expect fruit off of a tree that you have pillared even quite significantly. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about the size personally. Sonny said, hey Ross bro, what's up bro? Any plans on some new stone fruits this coming season, apriums, pluots, etc.? You know, not necessarily, because I'm trying to buy land, so I don't want to plant much, if anything. There is some scion I may trade with somebody at some point. I'll let you guys know. There is a couple things actually I'm gonna plant, believe it or not, but mostly no. And we're gonna get way into that as soon as I get some land, because we have barely scratched the surface of stone fruits and plum, all the stone fruits, the apples, the pears. Really been doing a lot of research, by the way. There's a guy I found on YouTube. He's an old guy. Really like his videos. Let's see, pruning pear trees. He's got to come up with this. There's no way he doesn't come up. This is unfortunately why YouTube is so annoying sometimes. Here's one of my videos. I can't complain about that. It's cut off though. That's not fun. Here it is right here. This guy, Dan Newtboom. I love this guy. He's old. He's clearly been around for a long time. He's very knowledgeable, and I've been watching his videos recently to really pick his brain on pruning and what he's doing. And he's definitely given me some good tips on pruning pears, apples, stone fruits. Really like his green gauge tree and his open center that he uses. He actually did a fig video, and believe it or not, he's not too far off. It's just that I don't think he necessarily knows why exactly. He didn't really hit the point home on why, but I don't blame him. Probably should hit the subscribe button, by the way. Let's see here. Where are we at? Where are we at with this crap? Let's see. I'm just kidding. Love you guys. Let's see. Plant. Oh yeah. What's up, Dave? I have a Long Island and a pot in the ground. I'll keep you posted. Oh, sweet. Yeah, I want to know what that thing is, honestly. Nicholas, what's going on, dude? Good to see you, buddy. Joe, Ross, beside your fig trees and persimmons, you have any other fruit trees? Oh my God, yeah. Are you kidding me? By the way, we have a whole playlist for anyone that's interested, dedicated to all the other fruits and vegetables I grow. What the heck was that, by the way? Anyway, here's the playlist. And it's all about the other fruits and vegetables. So we have even just tastings. Here's an orange glow watermelon that I got to taste finally, even though it wasn't perfectly ripe. Yeah, so these are all the different things I grow. Raul says, which persimmon do you think is better one for our area in PA/New Jersey? I think, honestly, one of the best ones is Nikita's Gift. That's what I've heard from and seen from Edible Landscaping. Michael McConkey there has a huge number of pretty darn mature trees, and that one doesn't get too big. The fruit quality is really great, and it's also very hardy. And it's quite a late season persimmon, so you could have fruit well into the winter. And I actually would recommend 2. If you can get multiple persimmons, I would, because they're going to ripen at different times. Joe said there was a neighbor here, had a beautiful fig, very fruitful. The roofs here are about 10 feet tall. The neighbor passed away, and her next of kin takes possession of the fig tree. Out. That sucks. It happens all the time, which is why we need to preserve more of these trees. TJ said that, yeah, people who chop down their fruit trees are the worst. Sonny, you got a girlfriend that's into gardening too, bro. No, I don't. Are you trying to colonize the fig wasp in your greenhouse? Yes. Pro mix is crap. I agree. I don't know. People love it. There's a lot of people who love it. I hate it. I don't know. His Lampira Prush showed me I knew nothing about figs. Yeah, I mean, I actually grew Lampira Prush here, and it wasn't anything special. It really struggles with moisture, so it's a shame because that fig looks amazing. I'm sure it is very good. Yeah, I mean, citrus trees are incredible. I would love to have some citrus in the ground. Amazing. Stuff and Things said, you ever consider growing feijoas? Yeah, I have. There needs to be a hell of a lot more cultivar info out there, but they're super underrated plants for temperate climates. Well, let me ask you this, Stuff and Things. Do you have a variety that will survive 0 degrees Fahrenheit? Because it's evergreen. And as far as I know, none of them survive that low. Steve said, prickly pear. I haven't gotten into prickly pears just simply because I know I haven't heard of one, and also I'm waiting for land, but I haven't heard of one that's hardy that also tastes amazing. So if I can find one that's really good fruit quality that's also hardy, I'll start it. Somehow what happened here? We got lost in the chat. Here we go. You need to get to beekeeping, says Jed. Yeah, oh my God, I can't wait. That's one of the first things on my list. I'll tell you that right now. Drew wants to start growing currants. Oh, man. I'm confused. Why currants? I mean, they're extremely healthy. I'll tell you that. One of the healthiest things you can eat. But I had not really found much of a use for them. Jam, fresh eating, even the josta berry. I'm not entirely sure if I really want to grow that fruit anymore. You know, I probably will grow currants again in the future, but maybe I'll experiment with more varieties or something. And I don't know what I'll do. But currants are so darn easy to grow here. It's almost like, why wouldn't you? If you had the land. Sheldon, how much to spend on a 10 by 10 low tunnel? Not a lot. Not a lot at all. I mean, I think I spent... Man, how much did I spend? Roughly $400 for about 500 square feet of low tunnels. So you might be able to get, if 10 by 10 is 100 square feet... Is it got to be 10 by 10 though? I mean, 10 by 10 is like, how do you do a low tunnel that's 10 by 10? You're going to have to do multiple low tunnels. You can't, if it's 10 by 10, it's going to be a high tunnel. It's going to be high, which is going to be more expensive. But a low tunnel, multiple low tunnels, that's 100 square feet. You could probably do it for $100. The plastic's the most expensive thing, but if you can find plastic cheap, that'll save you a lot of money. Rebar is cheap. PVC's cheap. Clips and bricks and things are cheap. Zone 9 land's really where it's at. Shame it tends to be so pricey. Yeah, I mean, well, that's California. It's so expensive. Joe said, you're the same mind as Curtis Stone. Started out growing in the city. Now I just recently purchased land in Canadian wilderness. I've seen a number of Curtis Stone's video. I wouldn't say that we're that similar. I like his passion for growing food, obviously, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's definitely more. I just saw his video, by the way, the same one you're talking about. He is like way out in the wilderness. That's not going to be me. I'm trying to stay near the city. Here's the issue: is buying a lot of land as close to the city as I can. I don't want to leave Philadelphia too much. You know what I mean? But I also don't want to really be out in like the middle of nowhere. Maybe I wouldn't mind it. I don't know. I guess if I was married, I wouldn't mind it. You know what I mean? But finding a wife and you live in the middle of nowhere is a lot more difficult than finding a wife if you live in the city. Sonny said, how'd your corn turn out last season? Amazing, actually. It was incredible. I love it. I was really impressed. The biggest keys I learned was you got to water it a lot, and also the foliar sprays I was using, feeding it is just makes it all so much better. Also, you got to stake it or hill it up really well, or have it in an area that doesn't get a lot of wind. Yeah, Joe, I hope, but we're still a while away. I mean, at least a year, because I gotta at least get another year's worth of income, and then hopefully some investments work out the way I think they're going to work out. And then also I got to find the land. So it's at least another year. But, you know, another year is not that long. AM said, is Brandywine worth growing given the lack of productivity? Absolutely. I'm growing it every single year of my life until I find something that tastes better. Because so far, I don't think there's a tomato that tastes better than that tomato. If someone can prove me wrong, I'd love to grow that tomato, you know. There are some that come close, but I do think Black Cherokee was one that came close. Maybe I'll try that one again. Joe said, I wonder how much 942 square meters. Here is the deal to know how big is an acre in comparison to a hectare. I couldn't tell you. I don't know hectares that much. Elise said, Happy New Year to you as well. All the best. Happy New Year. Okay, Jed's got it covered. Stuff and things. I actually got into figs during the earliest stage of quarantine. The lockdown gives and it takes. Congrats, Ross. You deserve everything. Thank you, Sheldon. Joe said, that's good to know, Jed. Blah, blah, blah. All right, you guys are having your own little conversation. Ross, thanks for the info on lactose intolerance. I decided to cut it out after hearing your story, and my GI issues have almost been completely eliminated. Holy shit. That's awesome. Yeah, you know, there's multiple parts of lactose, or multiple parts of dairy and how it could be negative for your health, but one of them is lactose, which you could actually take a pill for, right? An enzyme. But also, the casein in dairy is quite intense for some people, and it's actually quite intense for me. If I eat a lot of ice cream, I just zonk out. You know, I'm just like a zombie. So definitely, if you have like sheep's milk or goat milk or goat products, I should say, it's got less casein in it, which is the protein, by the way. And the protein in gluten actually has a similar effect for a lot of people. If you eat a lot of pasta, some people just turn into a zombie. So that's something I'm trying to avoid, you know. Joe said, all the money in the world is not good if we don't have our health, for sure. We have a bad habit of sleeping too close to our phones. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't think we really know the answer to that one. I don't think it's as bad as people think, but it's probably not helping. Work gets in the way. Make sure you have K2 with your vitamin D for sure. I gotta take K2 every time I take vitamin D, by the way. Joe said, sleeping with your mouth open, hard to tell, but I'd say so. I do get up a lot of pain. It's too personal, Joe. Come on. That was my problem, though, is I slept with my mouth open, and I had sleep apnea because of it. Every day I would wake up, and I felt like I didn't sleep well. So you got to close your mouth when you sleep. There's a couple things you can do. You can actually duct tape your mouth shut. I don't know if I'd recommend that, but you could. And actually, there is a doctor named Patrick McEwen. You can look into him and his work, and that's something that he recommends. But you can also get a strap that goes around your chin and Velcros up at the top and in the back, and that really helps. And then eventually you get in the habit of it, I find, and I don't have to wear it. Eli, what's going on, buddy? I've talked to you in a long time. All right, you gotta sleep. We'll talk later, buddy. Solo, do you get your greenhouse plastic for low tunnels from Greenhouse Megastore as well? Sometimes you could get it from AM Leo, wherever you can get the best deal, and you want like a 6mm plastic. Steve said, what fig would you recommend for a large early Brava crop in a wet climate? Only have Desert King. I actually just heard, who was it? I think it was Harvey who recommended Borgia Soap Grease for a Brava crop. That's interesting. I would recommend Violet de Bordeaux. RJ said Greenhouse Megastore has a 4x6 square pot that works well for cuttings as well. Okay, I'll have to check those out. AM said, have you fruited Great Black yet? No, I haven't. Yeah, I thought it could be common. He wasn't sure. The Portuguese and Greek varieties definitely, for whatever reason, they take a long time to hold on to their fruit. And at the end of the day, they may not even be common. I don't know. I think the Portuguese people, actually, Lampo, is really good at knowing whether a fig is common or not. So I would be more... I trust the Portuguese growers way more I trust the Greek growers. Great Black actually is a Greek variety from Andreas, so I don't trust him at all, but I'll tell you, or any of his varieties, I should say, but I'll tell you that it looks amazing, so that's why I'm growing it, and that's why I'm trying it, just to see, because it looks so darn good that I feel like I gotta try. Stuff and things. I wonder if you could grow cactus fruits in cold, wetter climates using fig techniques since they're so similar. Yeah, I guess you could. But they're even quite hardy as it is. Like, some of them are hardy to zone 6, I think. Some of them. Definitely zone 7. You can find a pretty good variety. Sheldon said, any advice on a 10x10 low tunnel? I think we answered that, right? Well, maybe somebody else asked about the 10x10 low tunnel, oddly enough. Is 2 of you guys doing a 10x10 low tunnel? A 10x10 isn't a low tunnel at that point. It'd be a high tunnel. I mean, at least I don't know how you would do a low tunnel. It wouldn't be a great structure if it was 10x10. So you'd have to do multiple low tunnels. You would do tunnels that are 3 foot in width. Now, if you want a high tunnel, that's a different story. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. If you want specific advice, let me know. Alexander said, my dad would prune our fig tree in California back to the main stump yearly, and it still produced like crazy. There you go. You still have the tree, Alex? Christopher Rizzo, Fig Boss. What's going on, Chris? Let's see. Arif, do you still have your Che tree? Yes. It's in the ground. It's dropped its fruit last year. but I think it needs to dig itself in a bit more. And as soon as it gets maybe more established, maybe I'll know this year or the next year. After that, I don't know what to say. At some point, I got to dig it up and move it. So I don't know what to do. Maybe I'll leave it there before I move. I'll just leave it there forever and see how it does over time, you know. I would plant them in the ground for sure. It's a really healthy tree, by the way. So I don't know. Stuff and Things said, I don't know how to pronounce that, but there's a neat cactus for cold and wet climates I plan on growing. Prickly pears do grow in Cape May. Yeah, I mean, they can go down to zone 6, I think, some of them. Stuff and Things, I should probably clarify that my previous comment was answering Ross's comment on feijoas. Oh, yeah, that would help. Yeah, I heard that as well, I guess, in that they may defoliate in zone 7 and survive. But I don't know of anybody who's had any success with it. So until there's a variety where I feel confident growing it, I'm probably not going to bother until I get my own land. Chad Weeks said, I just moved out on 6 acres and have a ton of figs on pots. Other than grafting onto LSU Purple, how would you set up a new in-ground planting in Florida? Well, we did, I don't know if you saw the video, Chad, but we did a video about the tropics, growing figs in the tropics. I would plant them all in a berm that's 1 to 2 feet in height. You want to get rid of that water. That's your biggest enemy in Florida. So the higher you plant it, the better that water is going to go somewhere else and not ruin your fruit quality. You need things dry is really what you want. You want things dry. So anything you can do to make the soil a bit drier and also to deal with those nematodes like the LSU Purple, you're going to be better off. Victor S. said, planting feijoas around my house in 7A. Different spots, microclimates, hopefully they survive. Yeah, I hope so too. Let me know. Quick comment about Altunia fruits. I've not found any that are really good. Edible, yes. Palatable, no. Check out Geoscapes Nursery in Idaho. Okay, Randy. What's going on, by the way, Randy? Haven't seen you in a while. Hope everything's good with you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There are some people who like the Altunia fruits, and maybe there are some special varieties. Maybe it's really only a desert thing. Maybe it's quite susceptible to the humidity and therefore not as good. You know, certain fruits just do better in more tropical places or more desert-like places. Yeah, you know what? I noticed that Stuff and Things. That One Green World does have a good selection of a lot of, actually, fruits and vegetables. They are probably another nursery I recommend. You guys should check them out, honestly. And I've checked them out before for sure. And actually, I've never bought anything from them, which is so strange. But there was a couple things I've thought about on occasion. They have a good selection of citrus trees, and I hope to get a couple of these. One is called the Amoa 8. And this blood orange looks so darn good that I feel like I have to try it. Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to go eat dinner. I was supposed to eat about an hour ago, and I never did, but I'm happy to have done this video. It's been a long time coming. If anybody else has some questions before we go, we're gonna wrap it up here. I want to thank you guys for joining us again. Anyone that's still watching, thank you. You haven't already, obviously hit the subscribe button. I mean, check out the blog. You can subscribe down here at the bottom. And yeah, whatever else you guys feel like doing, you know. Thanks again, all the support. Happy New Year to everybody out there. I think 2021 is going to be a good year. So Alex does have the tree. Awesome. Yeah, if you, I'm curious to know what the fruit looks like, Alex. Yeah, there you go, Victor. Exactly. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna head off now. Again, thanks everybody here for joining. Take care, everybody. Stay happy, stay healthy. Maybe think about some new New Year's resolutions that I've included. We'll update you guys on the giveaway we're gonna do, and that'll be an announcement, probably in video form. Also on the blog or maybe even the social media accounts. So yeah, we'll see everybody soon. All right.